and it was destroyed by Titus in 70 of the Common Era, when the Second Temple went on fire and got destroyed. This was one of the greatest tragedies of Jerusalem, which is, I think, embodied in this pile of stones that you can see here. This is no doubt a very good representation of the words of the gospel about Jesus saying that you see these magnificent stones of the Temple Mount, there will be none of them one on top of the other. This pile is an illustration which cannot be better for the words of Jesus.
In 2 Nephi 5:16, the Book of Mormon says that Nephi and his family built a temple, just like Solomon's temple, after they arrived in the Americas.
It says, and I, Nephi, another son of Lehi, did build a temple, and I did construct it after the manner of the temple of Solomon. So let's say that that's true, that in ancient times they built this temple
in America.
In America.
Any person who studies the Bible understands the centrality of worship here in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. The very idea of a temple anywhere other than Mount Moriah is a total impossibility. Jews are literally not allowed to erect a temple anywhere in the world except for right here.
The Book of Mormon clearly identifies Lehi as a descendant of Joseph. Later, in 2 Nephi 5, Lehi appoints his two sons as priests to serve in the temple they had built.
The men who are serving in the Holy Temple are all descendants of Aaron, lineal descendants of Aaron.
The Book of Mormon claim poses a problem because appointing priests who were not Aaronic Levites was expressly forbidden in the Old Testament. And yet, the Book of Mormon claims to uphold the Old Testament laws. What evidence is there of the existence of the people described in the Bible?
We have an inscription mentioning the house of David. Actually, two different inscriptions. One found in southern Transjordan. The second one comes from Tel Dan in the north.
And when we look at the Old Testament canon, when we look at people like Daniel and Isaiah, especially the later prophets of Malachi and Ezra, we have lots of extra-biblical witnesses to talk about these people outside of strictly their biblical context. These are ancient historical figures.
The New Testament talks about various figures like high priests, and we see records of these high priests which are from that period, showing that they clearly existed.
Caiaphas is mentioned in the New Testament as the high priest in the time of Jesus. Several years ago, workmen came upon a burial cave. Inside the burial cave there were approximately 10 ossuaries or bone boxes, upon one of which appeared the words, Joseph, the son of Caiaphas.
The figures like Paul have to have existed. If not, who wrote the letters that bear his name, that are written in the Greek of the time?
The introduction page in the Book of Mormon claims that, like the Bible, the book was written by many ancient prophets.
So before we can ask if these prophets were true prophets, we have to ask did they ever exist? We have no evidence that they ever existed, let alone that they wrote down these prophecies, that these prophecies were maintained accurately. We can't even ask these questions. We can't go that far.
So what of the central figure of the Bible, Jesus Christ? What evidence is there that he existed?
There's no doubt that Jesus was a historical figure. He's not only mentioned in Christian texts, but he's also mentioned in non-Christian texts. The Jews talk about Jesus Christ in their writings, even though they don't talk about him favorably.
When we look at the Testimonium Josephus, we see first, Jesus was Messiah, Jesus lived as a teacher, Jesus died under Pilate, and Jesus was resurrected. Both Tacitus and Suetonius were Romans and did not see the Christian faith as something they wanted to promote in any way, shape, or form, and yet they're mentioning Christ. These are real people talking about the historical reality of Jesus.
The historicity of Jesus Christ is established by ancient documents, and these are documents that can be proven to be ancient.
Do you believe that the person of Jesus was a historical person?
Absolutely, yeah. We do have, a lot of records. We know that he existed. I don't think that there's any doubt about that.
Jesus was here. On this very same level, on these very same stones, he was walking when he went into the Temple Mount.
Jesus was a historical person in the ancient Near East, but to proclaim that Jesus was a historical personage here in the ancient America is a rather absurd proposal that's certainly not backed by the evidence.
Is it accurate to say that Jesus visited the Americas? There's no evidence for that at all.
The Book of Mormon proposes that after Jesus arrived in the Americas in AD 34, that there was a massive conversion to Christianity.
Aquí no existe ninguna evidencia cristiana, ni primitiva, ni más evolucionada.
I find no evidence that tells me that Jesus Christ of the Bible is the Jesus Christ of the Book of Mormon. I cannot understand how archaeological evidence and textual evidence would point to the historical reality of Christ in Palestine and yet be entirely lost in the New World.
The Jesus Christ we see presented in the Book of Mormon is the Jesus Christ of Joseph Smith's imagination.
The Bible is a very important source. It tells us about historical events.
You can easily show that the Bible is archaeologically sound.
If you ask the Smithsonian about the use of the Bible or the Book of Mormon for archaeological research, you'll get a response that is representative of what anthropologists would agree with today, and that is that several books from the Bible have been used as guides in archaeological research. On the other hand, the Book of Mormon has never been used by the Smithsonian as a guide to historical and archaeological research. The problems with the Book of Mormon are so systemic that I don't believe that no matter how much archaeological work is done here, that it will change the basic conclusion that the Book of Mormon couldn't possibly be a history of ancient America.
It doesn't make sense to me. The Book of Mormon, with all due honor, I don't think it has anything to do with the culture of 600 BC, and I'm an expert on that period.
I can only answer you unabashedly that the Book of Mormon has absolutely no authority, bearing, or integrity whatsoever.
Joseph Smith fabricated a history and presented it to the world as the Word of God. That's pretty arrogant. That's really arrogant.
As an anthropologist, if I step back and look at the whole big picture, when you can't find the places that it's talking about, and you can't identify the people that it's talking about, and you can't find the types of material goods that it's talking about, there's a major problem. If it was just one thing, then you could say, well, we're just not finding it. But if you don't find the whole package, then the chance of the Book of Mormon being true is zero.
The Book of Mormon is factually wrong. It gets the wrong plants, it gets the wrong animals, it gets the wrong technology, it's got the wrong languages, and it's got the wrong culture.
The Book of Mormon is 19th century religious fiction.
So Joseph Smith said, "I